We on your block with Nike Techs and ski masks, you see me? Little nigga, you just better run fast. Yeah, they call me Deuce the Crib. Little bitch, I get it lit. I'm from 1-5 Deuce, where all my niggas keep the stick. We on your block with Nike Techs and ski masks, you see me? Little nigga, you just better run fast. Yeah, they call me Deuce the Crib. Little bitch, I get it lit. I'm from 1-5 Deuce, where all my niggas keep the stick. They also call me Fat BC, bitch, that's always in the hood. Gotta keep a Nike Tech in so if a nigga wanna get judged. I ain't fucking with the ops, best believe I up a shot. Niggas say he G blanking, watch his 30 hit his top. Smacking sways, go insane, double landing with the game. Fuck ceilings on my mama, bitch, I let the 30 bang. Fuck whoever this the hood, if I see you, you better bud. I'm with the BRGs on my mama, we all hood. Bitch, you rolling or you moving, all my gangsters get to hooping. Let me see my op lacking, I bet this 30 get to shooting. Who the fuck is my ops? Honestly, no opinion. If I got my Glock, bitch, I'm finna leave him on the scene. No jumper, bitch, I'm with the homies, all summer. Dog double in, your bitch wanna be with the gang. If that nigga got some gold, I have the homies get his chain. I'm a chain snatcher, bitch, I'm a reverse Johnny Dang. Niggas take it to the net, cause they know they scary. I got a big ass stick and I ain't talking hairy. Y'all niggas rats, I'm tryna kill you like Tom and Jerry. When it's go time, nigga, I bet you really scary. On hood. Devil in, bitch, on hood. Fear the homies, nigga. On nothing nice, bitch, against the kid, nigga. Dead homies.
What's up, everybody out there? Okay. Couple of videos I ain't talked in, but I'm gonna speak in this one though. Because a lot of y'all only touch bases on gangbanging. It's a bigger war out there in the Middle East and in the Pacific Ocean and across the whole country. A bigger war than us, than gangbanging in California or anything in the United States. So, with that being said, let me take a sip of this wine. So, with that being said, while y'all covering and fighting on the internet and talking about people paperwork and stuff like that, we might not even make it to see all the paperwork. Really, Kimaya? Might not even be here long. Because we got these egotistic mother suckers right now holding all our lives in their hands. Everybody always talking about, oh yeah, I hold mine, I stand on business, I stand on this. Well, guess what? The business you stand on and the business you talking about, that business will be over. Letting Trump in office and let these people fight over whether we should live or not. These people are considered God right now. Cause just like they talk about, oh yeah, all these nuclear weapons and all these ballistic missiles and technology is getting real serious now. Technology is coming up more than what technology was when we was coming up. Every damn day a kid is born, a baby is born, we get new technology. And now that Leon, whatever the fuck Musk is in office with Trump, Yeah.
What happened? He got people here. He never sprayed the pepper spray on the ground. Now everything is.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, for no reason. You didn't know that.
And don't go in her face after you done sprayed that pepper spray. You cannot go in her face.
Nowhere near though.
That shit was sprayed.
I don't know.
Bro, that shit.
Move by me.
What you mean?
You can't go nowhere because you got about spray. What the hell? Move.
She didn't.
Move everybody else's face too. Do not come in my face with that.
Who y'all? That's the only nigga playing with it.
God, y'all interrupting my damn shit.
It's not working.
But yeah, who was I? Nigga, get your skinny tall ass out of my shit. All right, let me get to the video before they interrupt anymore.
Russia is burning. It's plunged into darkness because Ukraine just carried out one of the largest strikes since this war began. And the strike was against none other than the Russian capital city, Moscow. Now, this was the first...
Ukraine is messing Russia up, bro. And Russia is supposed to be the big state. Is like messing Russia up, bro. Like, bro, I mean, I can't even explain.
He over here trying to play with me, saying something.
Strike Ukrainians have carried out against Moscow this year, but it was so bad that the fire was still burning all throughout the night and into the morning after the strike was carried out. Imagine that. Even in the capital city, Russia does not have the capacity to put out fires after 12 plus hours. We do have a lot of clips from the strike that we can share in this video, but before we get to the clips, here are more details on the strike. Let's watch.
Officials in Moscow say hundreds of Ukrainian drones have targeted the city. What appears to be the largest attack on the Russian capital so far in the war. At least 2 people have been killed and 3 injured. Russia's defense ministry said 337 drones were either intercepted or destroyed in Moscow and 9 other regions. Apartment buildings were among the buildings hit, and 4 airports were forced to close. Ukraine has not commented. It comes ahead of talks today between US and Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia, where the 2 countries will discuss the path to a possible ceasefire.
That last part is very important. This strike happened on March 10th, and that was before the ceasefire and the negotiation results were announced. That means that the U.S. aid and U.S. intelligence was still on pause when Ukraine carried out this strike. This goes to show 2 different things. First of all, Ukrainian drone industry is booming because this strike was carried out using Ukrainian drones. And based on the most recent figure, they're producing around 2.5 million drones per year. On top of that, Ukrainian intelligence is good enough to send in 300 plus drones into the Russian capital, Moscow, to target their military installations and military offices inside the capital city. That's quite a message that Ukrainians sent to the world's 2nd strongest military. But now let's get to the clips. First,
man, I'm about to start 3D printing drones with guns and missiles and stuff like that, man, so I can fly and blow just like them. You hear me? Missiles and drones, all types.
First clip we have of a Ukrainian drone attacking a Moscow refinery, which processes around 11 million tons of oil annually and supplies 40 to 50% of Moscow's diesel and gasoline needs. So here's the clip.
So thick.
Dang.
Now, as you guys know, there are many clips from this war that I cannot show on YouTube because YouTube considers them not advertiser friendly. And that's why YouTube often restricts or demonetizes our video. But this video, we want to show you all the clips. So we have decided to turn off monetization. That way, hopefully this video does not get restricted. The reason we can afford to turn off monetization on some videos is thanks to our supporters on Patreon. Over there, we post daily war clips that we cannot post on YouTube because of restrictions. And on top of that, often we have experts and experienced veterans come on and break down battlefield clips and battlefield battles. This is something that's extremely educational for me personally, and hopefully to all the Patreons who are supporting us on there. So if this is something you're interested in, you can sign up for our Patreon by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on your screen. It costs as little as $5, and your support helps us out greatly, so thank you so much. Now let's get to more clips. Here we have another angle of a clip we showed in the intro where a Ukrainian drone seems to be hitting a Moscow building.
That's
Очень.
This next clip actually gives us a sense of how big this attack likely was. So far, based on the stats that have been made public, this is by far the largest attack Ukraine has carried out since the war started. But in this clip, we can see that someone's attacking a drone hitting a building, and all the while they're doing it, there's another drone hitting something else, so they have to just swing the camera around and look at the other side of the city, and it kind of just shows us how many drones there actually were.
Shut up!
Сука.
Now we have some clips that just show the aftermath of the strike, what kind of damage it was done to buildings and I think to car parks and even a railway station. So let's go through these. Now, based on my research, that was a car park, which we can kind of tell because of all the beeping going on in the background. Next clip just shows the same car park in the morning when the fire has pretty much gone out, and it shows just so many cars that were damaged because of it. Next up, we have a clip showing damage to the building, and we can see there's literally a hole in the roof of a high-rise in Russia.
Это что такое? Там горело, да? Ни хрена себе дело.
Next, I have a clip showing the damage to the oil refinery. More specifically, an oil depot in Russia's Moscow refinery has been damaged very badly. Let's play this clip.
Действует там до 300 километров.
Trying to figure out how bro be getting all these clips though. That's what I want to know. How he be getting all these clips. Somebody that's out all these clips.
Now that you have seen all the clips, here's the punchline. Russia says it took down all the drones. Nah, I'm just kidding. They usually always say that, but this time they said they took down 300 drones. They did not say how many got through their air defenses. But the attacks from last night show one thing. World's second strongest military cannot even defend its capital city. All the while, this was not the only bad news Russia got yesterday. From the negotiations that were happening between the United States and Ukraine in Saudi Arabia, I think in Riyadh, the news came out that Ukraine has agreed to a ceasefire, and US has decided to lift all pauses, all restrictions on the aid, the weapons we were supplying them, and on intelligence sharing. So now the ball is in Russia's court, as Mark Rubio said it himself. If Russia says no, then everyone can see which country wants this war to continue, which country is against peace.
This is ending this war once and for all. Today, we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. I want to personally thank, we both want to thank Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Majesty, for hosting us, for making this possible. They've been instrumental in this process, and we're very grateful to them for hosting us here today. And hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians, and we hope that they'll say yes, to peace. The ball is now in their court. And but again, the president's objective here is number one, above everything else. He wants the war to end. And I think today Ukraine has taken a concrete step in that regard. We hope the Russians will reciprocate.
Well, just to add to the secretary's comments, the Ukrainian delegation today made something very clear, that they share President Trump's vision for peace. They share his determination to end the fighting, to end the killing, to end the tragic meat grinder of people and national treasure that's happening on the front in Ukraine. Number one. Number two, they made concrete steps and concrete proposals, not only accepting our proposal for a full ceasefire, which you can see the details of which are in our joint statement that we released together. But we also got into substantive details on how this war is going to permanently end, what type of guarantees they're going to have for their long-term security and prosperity, but also really looking at what it's going to take to finally end this, the horrific fighting. The other piece that I just want to make very clear is President Trump started this diplomatic effort in the Oval Office, talking to both leaders, both President Putin and President Zelensky back to back. And now that shuttle diplomacy continues. We have a named delegation in terms of next steps from the Russian side. We have a named delegation in terms of next steps from the Ukrainian side. I will talk to my Russian counterpart in the coming days. Secretary Rubio will be with G7 foreign ministers in the next couple of days. We have the NATO Secretary General in the White House on Thursday, and we'll take the process forward from there. So as a result of that, and I think as a result of this positive step forward, the president has decided to lift the pause on aid and on our security assistance to Ukraine going forward. And that's effective immediately.
Now, Russian ministers, Russian bloggers, and even pro-Russian commentators here in the United States are just freaking out at this fact. They think Trump should not be pressuring Russia into a ceasefire because Russia is advancing on the front lines. Why would they stop killing Ukrainians, innocent Ukrainians? That's what they're arguing. And it's just insane that they're now publicly saying this. Before we got into Russian ministers and all their statements, I want to show you something from Scott Ritter. He's a very pro-Russian commentator here in America, and this is what he had to say. I have lost faith in the good faith of Trump negotiating team. A 30-day ceasefire would be a boon to Ukraine, a chance to stabilize the front lines, to strip all tactical and operational advantages Russia has occurred through blood and sacrifice of their soldiers. And once Ukrainians recover, then to sit at a table where a rejuvenated Ukraine rejects Russia's conditions for peace. Russia's condition for peace is a full Ukrainian surrender. That's not conditions for peace. That's been their goal since the beginning, but they don't have the army or the power to enforce that goal. Trump's team has not negotiated in good faith, and the fact that this proposal is offered after Ukraine carries out a massive strike against Moscow, Russia will reject this ridiculous proposal and hopefully escalate the violence, oh my god, to such a scale that US will realize that there needs to be a realistic peace proposal agreed to in writing before any ceasefire takes hold. It's crazy someone's tweeting this out. Continuing, one that includes the withdrawal of all Ukrainian forces from constitutional Russia. The Ukrainian troops can leave voluntarily or die. Trump isn't serious about peace, and Trump will reap the whirlwind as a result. It's insane that pro-Russian accounts are publicly tweeting out war violence. All this time they're saying that Russia is for peace, it's Ukraine who doesn't want peace, but now the true colors are truly showing. And the argument that the territory Russia controls is constitutionally Russian has no legs to stand up. Because you know who else agrees with me that Crimea is not Russian, it's Ukrainian. Donbass is not Russian, it's Ukrainian. None other than Putin. Before he went all psycho to recreate the Soviet Union, this is what Putin was saying in 1999 1999 when he first became the president. To all of Russia, he's telling it that Crimea is not Russian, it's Ukrainian. Let's watch this clip.
What is our main problem with Ukraine? First of all, we don't want to take Crimea. That's absolute nonsense. If we start taking something from someone, then something will definitely be taken from us, or we will lose something. In any case, initiating such a redistribution within the territory of the former Soviet Union would lead to consequences from which we may never recover. There are already 400 disputed territories within the Russian Federation. 400. I want everyone to be aware of this. Secondly, the issues of sugar and gas are separate matters. Thirdly, some things are debatable, but hear me out. The main problem, in my opinion, is Russia's heavy imperial legacy. For some reason, everyone thinks that Russia remains an empire. But now I ask you to listen to me carefully. People still view Russia as an empire and treat it as such. But that hasn't been the case for a long time now.
Now, it's not just pro-Russian commentators who are saying Russia will not accept this ceasefire. It's also Russian MP, Russian ministers who are part of the Russian government are saying this publicly. Russia will not agree to 30-day ceasefire because it will just enable Ukraine to regroup and rearm, says a Russian MP, Viktor Solev. He added that a temporary ceasefire is unacceptable and only plays into Ukraine's hands. Personally, just researching a bit more online, I think Russia does not publicly want to be the country that denies peace, especially considering how publicly Trump has said that his goal is peace no matter the cost. So I think Russia doesn't want to piss off Trump and make an enemy of the new administration who can possibly give Ukraine everything they need to push Russia out of all the territories they control. So I think Russia will likely try to put in some kind of condition that makes it so it's not Russia who's saying no, but Ukraine will be forced to say no, or maybe Russia will just try to drag out the negotiation. That's what I personally think. I think they'll probably say that they'll agree to a ceasefire if Ukraine holds elections, and that's something Ukraine's probably not going to do because it's against the constitution literally while they're in martial law. So Russia will try to use that condition as to frame it to the world that it's not the Russians who are saying no to the ceasefire, it's the Ukrainians. But in reality, Russians never wanted a ceasefire. We saw some tweets from their commentators, even their MP, and in a second I'll show you guys from other bloggers from Russia. Everyone in Russia, everyone who's for Russia just wants to continue the killing, continue to push into Ukrainian lands as much as possible. And it's not just the fact that Russia wants to continue killing, they also don't care how many soldiers they lose, which is, I guess, an even sadder part of this war, or Russian history, I guess. But next up, I have a Russian war correspondent who shared his thoughts on the negotiations and the results that were announced in Saudi Arabia. So first part of the tweet is just basically him recapping all the details that we already covered, but he goes on to say that U.S. Secretary of State Rubio said, now the ball is in Russia's court regarding peace in Ukraine. So they are once again opening the flow of weapons and intelligence. Ukraine will stockpile all of this for a month, and then Russia will be blamed for continuing the war. I wonder what Ukraine was pressured into agreeing to, aside from the natural resources. This whole spectacle with turning off the tap wasn't just for that, and it was definitely not for peace. In short, we keep fighting and wait to see what Washington will tighten on us next. Russia bombs itself. Literally, this is not a figure of speech, and the worst part of all of this is this is not the first time. They have done it before, and we have made a video about it before, and they just did it again. And I want to be crystal clear about this. This is not some small mistake as in they just accidentally bombed Russian-controlled Ukrainian territory or bombed something in the front lines that was controlled by Russia. No. They bombed a full-on Russian city that's inside the Russian border, and it happened by accident, or you could call it negligence. That's how bad the Russian army is, that they don't even know where their own missiles are going. That's how bad the Russian army is, that when they're trying to attack Ukraine, they end up attacking their own citizens. There's no better analogy to show you guys how this war is going for Russia and Putin than to tell you that Russia just bombed itself. So let's go over that story in this video and also talk about how Putin is worried about his own citizens because they're helping Ukraine inside Russia, and Putin is running advertisements to tell Russian people that helping Ukraine is illegal in Russia. Imagine that. So let's get into all that and more in today's video. Like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously and the algorithm, especially when covering and showing you footage from the war. YouTube's not a fan of it, and your likes help us out tremendously. Let's start. First and foremost, I have learned my lesson from the last video, and I'm not keeping any footage from you guys. I'm going to show you all the footage we have. First, we have the footage of Russia dropping a missile on its own city. It was trying to attack Ukraine like they do every single morning. They just throw over dozens of missiles, dozens of drones, sometimes hundreds of drones. But this time, everything didn't go exactly as planned. Part of a missile fell into a Russian city, a populated Russian city, and we have it on video. So let's see the video, and then we'll get into details of the damage.
Он там въебало.
So this happened in the Lipetsk region of Russia. And as you can see from the map on your screen, that region is quite a bit far from the border. So this wasn't some close call where they just accidentally dropped it a few hundred feet here and there. This was like a pure failure. This was a Russian X-22, X-32 missile that fell. As local officials called it, it fell randomly off the booster block of the aviation missile system. The cost of these missiles could be anywhere from $1 million to $5 million. And again, like I said earlier, learn the lesson from last video. We do have more footage. This time we have the footage of the damage. So here, let's watch that. "500 Russian homes were reported without electricity because of this. Now, there are no reports of casualties, which is a good news. But then again, if there was casualties, Russia wouldn't report it anywhere. Because after all, Putin can make no mistake in this war or this special military operation. Now, if you're in for a more laugh, we actually have a second story. Just few days before this incident, Russia accidentally dropped one of its smart bomb on itself too, one of those FAB-250. But before we get to that, I do want to cover this interesting story that one of the BBC reporters started, and that's basically going over how Russian newspapers are reporting everything inside Russia. And he did a segment on how Russian newspapers are covering this war. And it's really great. So I want to show you guys a clip. It's from Steven Rosenberg from BBC, who's staying inside Russia. And earlier on this channel, we have covered some questions that he has asked Putin directly. Since he is in Russia, he does get access to any Q&A that happens for international media. And he has asked some very brave questions that I personally would likely be very afraid to ask when you consider the fact that Putin is not too kind to foreign journalists in Russia. But let's watch this segment.
Today, once again, we see the Russian papers reflecting economic problems in the country. According to Moskovsky Komsomolets, last December, 70% of the loans taken out by Russians were from microfinance institutions, medium-term loans to tide people over until next month's pay packet. A year ago, that figure was 47.4%. There is an obvious paradox here. On the one hand, according to official statistics, the income of the population keeps rising. On the other hand, as real life demonstrates, people don't have enough money for their current needs, to pay their housing and utility bills, to go to the dentist, to buy medicine. This chap with a sledgehammer says to the piggy bank, "Allow me to take a look inside your rich inner world." The paper adds that 15 to 20% of Russians must take out loans to make it through to their next pay packet. Last year, inflation was officially 9.52%. But look at these figures. Last year, the price of milk rose 16%, butter 36%, vegetables and fruits 22%, potatoes 92%. Izvestia reports that in Russia, spare parts for foreign cars have gone up in price in a year by 20 to 50%. The situation is worst of all with European cars: Mercedes, BMW, Volvo, Skoda, Audi and Volkswagen. The problem is that the supply of spare parts due to sanctions and difficulties with payments are only getting worse. So prices are increasing. What is decreasing in Russia is optimism that Donald Trump will facilitate a swift end to the war in Ukraine to Russia's benefit. Kommersant notes that preparations for a Trump-Putin telephone call, let alone a summit, have oddly dragged out, even though on the face of it, it's quite a simple thing.
Notice how they don't mention the casualty figures at all. I don't know about you guys, but if I was a leader of a country and my army was losing hundreds of thousands of soldiers just to gain a few hundred square meters of ground, I don't know if that's something I'll be bragging about, but I guess Putin's a different breed. And we have to remember, all the media in Russia is controlled by Putin. Any media that was even a little bit critical and independent was dismantled when he launched his senseless invasion back in 2022. And you know how I know that the media is controlled by Putin? Because this was the exact talking point that Putin himself used in his end of the year Q&A that he did just a month ago. In that Q&A, which was 4 hours, by the way, I listened to the whole thing because I wanted to share it with you guys, the important parts. And in there, he was telling everyone how the Russian army was gaining tens of square meters every day. And the way he was telling it, like he was almost proud. It's almost like he forgot that just 2 years ago, he got on the national television in Russia and told everyone that he's starting a special military operation and he'll have Kiev. That's how you say it in Russian, Kiev, in just 3 days. He completely forgot that. And now he's bragging about gaining tens of meters, tens of square meter every single day while losing hundreds of thousands of soldiers every month. And all the while the media is bragging about the time is on their side, I guess they have to say that. You know, you don't want to induce panic in the public, but the reality is completely different. The banking system is having issues. The inflation is out of control. The government is lying about what the inflation is. And even then, they cannot lie enough to show the trend that inflation is not growing. Almost in every other economy, the inflation is coming down. All the while in Russia, it's going up while the government is doctoring the numbers. The bank rate, the Fed rate in Russia is at 23%. And Putin is blaming inflation on the central bank. All the while, he's printing so much money that other businesses cannot compete with the salary and the bonuses that the army is offering. But Putin has to offer bonuses because if it wasn't for bonuses, he could not get all the poor Russians to come die for him in this war that he so badly wants to win. But time is not on his side. Let me show you, while we are talking about bonuses, a funny story I just saw. So you guys remember how we have covered earlier, Russia is giving out $40,000 if a soldier gets injured on the battlefield or on the front lines. The devil is in the details here, and I'll tell you guys why in a second. They're giving out $40,000 if you're injured on the front lines, and they're giving you $70,000, or your family $70,000 if you die on the front lines. Here we have a Russian wife who's worried that she may not receive compensation or the bonus if her husband dies because she already got a bonus for her first husband dying back in 2022. Now, I cannot answer to her on this forum, but if I was a betting man, I'll say that she's not going to get the bonus. And the reason I say that, and the reason why I said devil is in the detail earlier, is because Russia is very specific with their words, and that's for a good reason. They want to get out of paying these bonuses because just last year, the bonus was 6% of their total budget. I'm not saying defense spending, just the bonus alone was the 6%. Our compensation to the injured and wounded and dead people was 6% of their budget, which is insane. And that's why they're looking for any way to get out of paying people what they promised them. So one way they did that was, if you get injured or die fighting in Kursk, they say, hey, that's not really the front line, so you're not going to get paid for that because it's not in Ukraine. But that's something that they don't tell them when they're signing up. In fact, when people are signing up, they incentivize them, they tell them, and they use this as a honey to get people in. But when it's time to pay up, they look for all these loopholes like insurance companies. But another loophole they've been using is, it's very specific how they say front line. So if you don't happen to have any injuries on the front line, you got it while you're going there or anything like that, they try to get out of paying. And that's a very common issue. And again, going back to that 4-hour Q&A that Putin did, we had a couple of questions of people asking this specifically, that there's a lot of fraud going on. And he's like, oh, we'll take care of this. But it's been more than a month, and Russians are still complaining. Many Russians are still complaining that they're not getting what they were promised. Anyways, let's keep moving forward. The story that I want to show you guys next is, even though that newspaper article is saying that Trump is really trying to help Russia, in reality, all this tough talk, Trump wants to help Russia win this war. In reality, some Russian commentators, some military commentator in Russia who are on state TV, not on state newspaper, they are very unhappy with the way Trump has been dealing with Russia and with some of the words Trump has used to define Russia. Remember the tweet Trump put out during his inauguration day, or right before that, right after that, like a few days before or after, where he said Russia is in a very weak position and they better come to the negotiating table or the sanctions will go up. Well, that tweet didn't go down well with some of the pro-Russians in Russia. So let's watch this clip from the Russian state TV. Now, the clip is in Russian, but I know a lot of you guys like to listen to the videos, so we'll have the AI English dub, so that way you can understand everything they're saying.
Look, there is a war, and the economy plays a role.
Look, there is a war, and the economy plays a role. Why did Napoleon lose? The economy, economic potential, France's science and economy. That's what determines war, both past and future. Not everyone understands this, but the military knows it for sure. Absolutely for sure. Look at what he says. But this is precisely the scare tactic that they are pulling out. He wrote the following on social media. I'm not looking to hurt Russia. I love the Russian people and always had a very good relationship with President Putin. And this despite the radical left's Russia, Russia, Russia hoax. We must never forget that Russia helped us win the Second World War, losing almost 60 million lives in the process. All of that being said, I'm going to do Russia, whose economy is failing, and President Putin a very big favor. Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. It's only going to get worse. If we don't make a deal, and soon I have no other choice but to put high levels of taxes, tariffs, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries. Let's get this war, which never would have started if I were president, over with. We can do it the easy way or the hard way. And the easy way is always better. It's time to make a deal. No more lives should be lost.
Any commander will tell you that without the economy, we can't achieve anything. Today's challenges are completely different. Look at what Trump is doing. Today, he doesn't come across as the US president, but as the boss of the world. Sasha Sladkov wrote that he's like some guy who hasn't been slapped in a long time. Honestly speaking, what is he even doing? We're talking about Trump. Who is he threatening? Us. What did he start with? An ultimatum. Look at how on some channels it's being said that Trump will end the war, not the American ones, but ours. What war will he end? Under what conditions? Will they impose sanctions on us? Will he isolate Russia? He won't untangle this mess, honestly. Look at the country, at the territory, at the distances. Who has such unity? Who in America? They're ready to devour each other there. In Europe, it's the same situation. For Russians, the harder it gets, the angrier the people become. Angrier at the enemy. And today, everyone is reposting his words, saying it will be like that. But why will it be like that? Considering the situation we have today, there will probably be some negotiations, some talks. Talks are always necessary. He's trying to establish a bargaining position now. Classic Trump. Maybe, I don't know, maybe our president should create an account on X, Twitter, and respond as well. But the best response would be a good nuclear explosion on Novaya Zemlya, honestly. What's wrong with Novaya Zemlya? Is there not enough space to detonate somewhere else? London, for example. Not London, that's out of the question. Why bother Novaya Zemlya? If it's over London, they might think it's just a minor explosion. Why are they being so rude to us? How are they talking to us? I spoke with my military guys today. We had an open conversation. The guys were just passing through. I asked them something, and they replied, I don't know. One says this, another says that. What peace? With whom? About what peace? And they throw this narrative at us. You know Russians are fighting Russians. That's a lie. Russians are fighting traitors who betrayed their homeland, betrayed their faith. That's who we're fighting, and we must win. We shouldn't be left with this festering wound that can turn against us again at any moment. And today, the people are united in this opinion.
Russians really have a bad habit of just talking about nukes all the time. It's almost like they don't have the second largest military in the world, and only thing they have to depend on is the Soviet era nukes. But anyways, moving forward, we come back to our original story, the second bomb that Russia dropped on itself. This was actually a few days before the one we covered at the start of the video. And this was a smart bomb that Russia dropped on its Belgrade Oblast. It was reported by a Russian telegram itself. The bomb was a UMBP-250, and it was found in a village in Russian region, but there were no casualties or damage this time. If we look at the map, we can see that Belgrade region is a bit closer to Ukrainian border, and I guess this makes it a little better than the previous one that we talked about, but still a failure nonetheless. Now, this was one of those FPV bombs that we have talked about earlier, which are like old school glide bombs that Russia has put wings on it so they can control it a bit better. And another reason for doing that is Russia cannot fly jets into the Ukrainian border because of all the Western air defenses that Ukraine has. So what they do is they just get these jets up within the Russian borders, and they just drop these bombs. They just glide all the way through to your Ukrainian hospital, Ukrainian school, Ukrainian hotel. Russia has a habit of basically targeting civilian infrastructure because their bombs cannot get through to any military, any high value assets that Ukraine has. So Russia is just settling for destroying citizens. I guess in this situation, it was karma because the bomb dropped inside the Russian borders. Luckily, no one was injured, no one was dead. Lastly, as you guys know, over the last 2 weeks, few of our videos have been demonetized by YouTube for talking about sensitive topics and covering violent events. This is why recently we opened up memberships on the channel. This way you guys can directly support our content. Again, you don't have to do it. We'll continue making the videos, but if you enjoy the content and you're able to support us,
All right.